Hey guys, Ryan and Cara here. We are putting in some fresh compost on the top of our raised beds and installing some cattle panels and a couple different ways to do some vertical gardening this summer.
So we filled these beds with some native dirt from our property, and then we're just top dressing it with a topsoil compost blend that we got from a local supplier.
I got some free cardboard at Lowe's the other day, so we laid that cardboard on top of our native topsoil before we put this compost blend down to hopefully prevent any weeds from growing through, or at least to stop them a little bit, because we do have a lot of grass seed in our native topsoil.
I'm really excited about all this compost we're putting in. The new beds are finally getting filled, and it's nice to see it all tied together. The next step that we can do after today, since the beds are filled, is put the drip irrigation on the top of the beds. We have these shutoff valves in every bed. That's where the drip irrigation tubing will lay on the top of the beds. And that'll be in a future video, so subscribe so you don't miss that. Here's a comparison. This side of the bed is topped with the compost, and that side is just our native dirt topsoil. In this front L-shaped bed, I had sowed several flowers last fall that are starting to sprout up now. So we're just gonna very carefully put the compost around those flowers so we don't smush them. It's always fun though to see things growing first thing in the spring. We have all the compost spread out across the beds, and now we are going to be installing our cattle panels for our vertical gardening. For the last 2 years, we've used cattle panels with some T-posts to support them for our tomatoes and green beans. These 6 new long beds here in the middle, we're going to do a horizontal panel in, and then we are also going to be adding a few extra arch panels across these other beds here. These long beds here are 12 foot long, and our cattle panels are 16 feet long. So Ryan's just using the grinder to chop off those few extra feet so that they just fit perfectly on the length of the bed. I'm gonna use those extra 4 feet of cattle panel that Ryan's cutting off to trellis our sugar snap peas, as well as a few other flower varieties this summer. Last year, we grew the sugar snap peas on arch panels here, and we also grew some on tomato cages as well as some bamboo cages. The tomato cages worked for a while until we would have a wind, and then the sugar snap peas would just blow them right over. And while the arch panel worked, the sugar snap peas maybe made it to about here, and it didn't maximize the full coverage of the panel. And I want to be able to plant some pole green beans up these panels earlier on in the season, and I wasn't quite ready to rip out those sugar snap peas because they were still producing for me when it was time to plant green beans. We're just using some outdoor zip ties or cable ties to attach the cattle panel to the actual T-post.
We are just centering these T-posts in the middle of these beds here. We're using just 2 T-posts for the 12-foot panels. When we had the panels, the full 16 feet the last 2 years, we did use 3 full T-posts for the cattle panels to support them up. We're mainly going to be planting tomatoes along these cattle panels. The tomatoes will grow some time before they have to actually start trellising, so we're raising them up. I believe it was about 14 inches off the ground. That way we can maximize quite a bit of height here, and we don't have to have the cattle panel all the way up against the soil.
Last year when I installed these 2 arch panels, I just screwed them directly into the raised bed frame so I didn't have to use an extra T-post. This bed here, I have garlic planted in it, so we're just gonna have to be very careful not to damage the garlic growing. So we just screwed this 2x4 into the raised bed with a couple screws, and that is just kind of pinching the cattle panel into place. We're just putting these pieces that we cut off the end of the cattle panel here at the very end of the garden, and I think I'll probably put some sugar snap peas or maybe some sweet peas all along those. We have all the arches and cattle panels installed now. Let me show you. We now have a total of 6 long cattle panels put up. Then over on this garden we have a total of 5 arched panels going along the garden. My name's Cara. If you're new here, subscribe and follow along as we garden this season. Bye y'all.